Good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing okay. I'm Jamie. Welcome to the DMU live stream for this evening, where we're going to be talking about the value of university. So a lot of people debate university, a lot of money, it's a lot of time, it's 3 years of your life, there's other alternatives. We wanted to chat amongst ourselves and get some insight from you guys, if you want to throw some questions in there, about university, the benefits, and just the value of making that decision, because it's not an automatic choice. It's not going to be the case that you automatically move from year 12, year 13 straight into uni. For lots of people, it's a big decision, both for yourself as a student and for your family as well. If you're watching this on the homepage or on YouTube, you can throw some comments in there and we'll happily tackle your questions as we go. Try and make the live stream as live as possible. The good news for you, and also the good news for me, is that I'm not alone in this venture this evening. I've got colleagues with me. I have got Dal. How are you, Dal?
I'm not too bad. How are you, Jamie?
I'm all right. Yeah, bracing myself for lockdown part 2, you know.
Oh, don't. I'm really gutted that the gyms are closed. I'll darn it back to home workouts for a month.
Oh, well, you know, I've been and got the kids a cheeky last minute McDonald's just to keep things healthy and keep things real before lockdown kicks in. I've not told them that McDonald's drive-thru is staying open, so we have to keep that down. I think this is the last chance for a couple of months now, so fingers crossed they don't hear wind of that. So yeah, shame back at the gym there, mate. You'll be down to pumping the iron back at home now.
I know, back in the cold garage. And, usually what I did before was just go out for a walk and whatnot. The weather's turned horrible. And oh, God, I just don't want to do anything, if I'm being completely honest. But
how about
that's
yourself,
a different
Ben?
live stream.
Are you worried about the gym, Ben?
No, I have to be honest. The gym is not top of my priorities in terms of lockdown. But I am moving house very shortly, and I think that's going to cause its own stress with lockdown happening. So yeah, it's going to be quite a stressful time. And again, it's quite a stressful time for students. But obviously, we keep doing these live streams. We keep trying to talk to students and try and stay positive. I think is the best way forward with the next month or so.
Absolutely. I mean, our job in this stream tonight, and indeed all the streams that we do, is to try and help you guys in the decision-making process that you're going through. It's a complicated decision anyway to decide to go to university. It really is. And this year, it's 10 times more complicated than it normally is, because you've had a massive chunk of your year 12 cut off. You've not been able to go to open days. You've not been able to go to physical activities like UCAS fairs. So things are a lot tougher. Let's do a couple of quick shout outs while we got people here. So we'll do a quick shout out here to Cyril. We pronounce it this? Cyril. I'm going to go with Cyril. Do tell us if we've mispronounced it. It's not the first time. So hey, how you doing? And we'll also go here. I like the ha from I'm liking it. Ruffy. I'm mispronouncing everything. I'm ruining these shout outs. I tell you, I should have nominated it. Right. Okay. So the benefits of university. Let's imagine, and this is not a big jump. Let's imagine I'm a parent, which I am, but I'm a parent of little ones at the minute. Imagine my son or daughter's thinking of going to university. And I'm a bit of a cynic. I'm not completely convinced on the idea. I didn't go to uni myself. My wife didn't go to uni. My brother and sister didn't go to uni. In fact, no one in the family has been to uni. And let's throw a question out to you guys. The tuition fees, right? University is not free. It's a relatively expensive thing to do. Turns out I pronounced the name correctly. It's a result. So £9,250 fees. You know, I'm pretty worried about that. To me, that seems like quite a lot of money. What can you say to reassure me that actually the fees themselves should not be a barrier to me wanting to go to university? I don't know who wants to jump in first.
I can do a jumping first. So I think with university, you do get a lot of benefit out of it. And you do get an awful lot of sort of opportunities. Obviously, you come out of it learning quite a lot throughout the studies. You learn a lot of skills whilst you're doing it. So really, from that perspective, it shouldn't be a barrier, because as we'll probably discuss later on in the stream, it kind of is worth the money, particularly if you take advantage of, again, all of those opportunities that university can provide you. You know, there are lots of things you can get involved in. There are, you know, the opportunity to go on placements, there's opportunities to travel, there's opportunities to meet lots of people, work on lots of projects, do lots of different things. So I think from that perspective, it certainly shouldn't be a barrier. But if you look at it in a slightly more practical sense, it still does sound like quite a lot of money. And I think when you do start to look at that a little bit, you start to think, well, actually, yes, okay, that's quite a lot of money. How do I justify that? But you've got schemes like student finance that do make it a lot easier to manage. You know, your tuition fees towards the university are paid for you. It never at any point will somebody come into your lecture and expect you to sign a checkbook to say, you know, this is the money that you need to pay to the university. That's all dealt with through student finance. And then when you look at the living costs that come with university as well, equally, again, you do get money from the government through student finance to, you know, move out, live in accommodation. And again, those sorts of opportunities provide themselves as a way of you, again, experiencing a little bit of independence, moving away from home. And that all comes as part and parcel, in my opinion, of the university experience. Again, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that, Dale.
Yeah, for me, I look at it a bit more long term. So in the initial term, yes, it is £9,250 a year. So as you both rightly said, it is quite a lot, and some people might be deterred by that. But when you look at it long term, let's just fast forward. Let's say you go to university, you have a fantastic time. Ben was mentioning there the opportunities you get. So that's in regards to employability. Sometimes a lot of people think, right, if I'm choosing to go to university, I'm often shutting the door on going into the place of work. And it's not necessarily the case. So a lot of university degrees have these joint schemes available, or sandwich courses that it's often referred to, where you get the opportunity to develop your academic knowledge whilst also getting employable experience. So you're working on the two side by side. And when you go through your university degree, not only will you be getting a fantastic education, you'll be becoming more knowledgeable of the field that you have a passion for, but you'll also be getting that invaluable work experience as well. So when it comes a time for your student, your son or daughter, or whoever it may be, for when they transition into the world of work, they're not just leaving with this academic knowledge, they're also leaving with the know-how and the experience of being able to put everything they've learned into practice, into the field that they want to go into. Ben was mentioning there some of the social benefits. So for me, when I went to university, I traveled a lot, and being a student at the time, I had no other obligations. I didn't have to worry about paying anything else. I didn't have to worry about working full time. So for me, it was just such a fun time. I got the opportunity to go to a lot of countries that I probably wouldn't have been able to go to if I didn't go to university, because of the time and also the way I managed my finances. But let's just fast forward 3 years now. Let's just say your son or daughter does go to university. Okay, it is £9,000 a year. I'm going to keep it to round numbers because my maths isn't the greatest. So 9 times 3 is £27,000 a year or something, and then you add in your student, your maintenance loan on top. You're probably talking, but across the 3 years, you're probably talking around £40,000. All in all, 40 to £50,000, and it does seem like a lot. A lot of people look at it as a debt, but one thing that I always stress and really strongly to look at it's actually an investment. You're investing in your future, because it is statistically proven that those that have a university degree will naturally out-earn those who don't. And what you will see is, as you go through your career, a lot of employers nowadays are looking for students or employees that hold some sort of degree. What type of degree do they have? And those are the types of students, or those are the types of applicants that are progressing on into the higher roles, generally speaking. But when you come back to repayment, this is where, for me, the argument of university is too expensive or it's too much money, for me, is completely flawed. Because when you come back to paying your student loan back, you have to be earning over a threshold. So let's just say, for example, your student comes to university for 3 years, you've paid £9,000 a year, they've also been given £7,000 a year in maintenance loans. They will only have to pay that back after the 1st April of their graduation, and once their salary is over £25,000. So if they're going into the world of work and their salary is at £20,000, you're not paying a penny back, but no one can take away the degree from you. So for me, it's a complete no-brainer. And when you look at the repayment, it is completely marginal. Often you don't even realize it. Don't know about you guys, you don't even realize that it's coming out of your wages every month, or your salaries every month, because it is so minimal. But ask yourself the question, would you be able to get into the positions that you're in without having the degrees behind you?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of behind you, it's really good of you to lay out a firework display for us, mate. I really appreciate it.
Just keeping you on your toes. I was looking at it myself, to be fair, while I was talking.
No, I said,
Oh,
for this
that's
stream,
very nice.
pull out other stops, and you've really gone the extra mile. It's really impressive, mate. So thanks very much. I'm sure the audience is enjoying that. I was looking at you and watching your fireworks.
On the next live stream, everyone's gonna have to pay a £5 admissions charge to come and watch my my firework display.
Yeah, Dole's live stream firework display sounds good to me. We should have done one tomorrow night, shouldn't we, for firework night proper? Okay, so tuition fees I'm feeling comfortable now. I've explained that I don't have to pay the fees up front, so I haven't got to turn up with my £9,000 in my pocket. You've talked about the repayments and made it quite clear that if I don't earn to a decent level, I don't have to pay that money back. So I'm actually a bit less worried. And your point about an investment does make sense. What about the academic side of university? I've heard that you don't get that many contact hours, and a bit worried about, will the degree that my, thinking of doing take me through to a productive employment career? Are there particular courses that are employable and particular ones that aren't? What are the academic benefits of going to university?
I can always jump in on that first, and then you can take over after me, Dal, if you like. I think to start with, I mean, obviously you're going in to study something that you are particularly interested in. And again, I really like what Dal says about, focusing it down to a particular career path. You're learning the skills to get yourself that job that you really want. And as you said, there's a lot of skills that can only really be developed by going through a university degree for certain jobs. It's not always the case, but it's always it's a big step for a lot of career choices and a lot of degrees that you might be thinking of choosing. So that's obviously one big benefit, is it gets you into the job that you could potentially want in the future. So obviously you get the opportunity to focus that study around a particular course area. And it might be that you go from that undergraduate course, which is a pretty standard degree that most students go into, to focusing that when you get into sort of PG level, postgraduate level. So you're able to focus it there again into masters, and you're able to focus your research and your study around that. So the academic side of things is obviously pretty straight cut in terms of you're going to come in, you're going to pick this course that you want to study, and that's going to be there for 3, potentially 4 years. And it's going to be your main focus over those 3 to 4 years, which is obviously a big difference from GCSEs, A levels, where you've got sort of a range of subjects that you might be covering. So that's one massive benefit. The other big benefit is that you'll find that obviously everybody on your course is going to be studying something very similar. So you're going to be around like-minded people. So you'll be able to kind of learn and develop a lot from them. But also the academics, they're in the same boat. They've probably worked in the field for a few years. They've worked for a couple of different industries. They've got graduate links for you. They've got placement links, and they kind of know their stuff. And you're able to kind of bounce ideas off of them. You're able to look at your research projects with them. So you get quite a nice relationship with your academics in that perspective, because they are people that have worked in those fields that you're going to be learning about. So an academic side, it really is worth that side of things, because you are able to kind of develop those studies, more focus it down to something that you're able to study. And then as you get to your kind of third year, you're able to focus your research projects there again into, right, this is what I want to go into, or this is the topic that I want to look at.
When I'm picking my course, how focused do you think I should be on where that course is going to take me afterwards, versus how focused should I be on, will I enjoy it? Will I be good at it? Will it be a fun 3 years? Which do you reckon is most important, or is that too simplistic a question?
No, I think it really depends on the student. If you know exactly what you want to do, then obviously that makes it very easy for you to know what to study, because you can sort of go, right, I know that I really want to become a psychologist, let's say, or I really want to go into computer science or something like that. You're able to go, right, well, I know where I want to go, and this degree is going to help me get there ultimately, because I'm doing a good degree that's roughly in that area, and I'm going to learn skills that translate quite easily into the career that I want to do. Obviously, you do then look at other courses that maybe are translating more directly. So for instance, if you want to be a pharmacist or a nurse or a midwife, those again are very key skills that you will get from that degree. But if you look at something like psychology or computer science, I can speak from computer science because that's what I studied, they give you a lot of wider skills. You gain a lot of transferable skills, and you can take those into other career areas. So it doesn't mean that just because you're picking a university course, it's pigeonholing you into one particular career path. You have got the ability later on to sort of go, well, actually, I've got these skills, but actually I've decided I want to maybe go into this career path. So in that sense, the opportunities that university provide you do open those up quite a lot. Sorry, Dad, do you want to pitch in on that as well?
Yeah, so fundamentally, I think it's important for me just to give you a different side of the glass, shall we say. What Ben's saying is absolutely right, but then there is also that very fine threshold. You've got to enjoy what you're going to do at university. Like I said, it's a massive investment that you guys are doing, not only in regards to finance, but also in regards to time as well. So you'll be spending the next 3 years, and let's not hide away from the fact or shy away from the fact that it might become challenging. So university degrees are there to challenge you. So just going back to the initial point that Jamie mentioned in terms of contacted hours, okay, you'll probably be with your teachers, your tutors, your lecturers, whatever they may be, for around 14 or 15 hours per week. On average, obviously, that does vary depending on the course that you guys choose to study. But that is instilling that level of independence, and that level of independence is going to be key for when you guys transition into the careers that you guys want to do. So for me, coming from an Asian background, so there was obviously an expectation, should we say, from my parents of, right, Dal, you've got to study one thing or you've got to go into one other. But in the back of my mind, it was always the fear of, right, I'm the person that's going to have to actually go to these university lectures. I'm the one that's going to have to try and complete these examinations when I haven't got an interest in this subject area at all. So for me, it was vitally important that if I went to university, that I did something that I enjoyed, because when it did become difficult for me, when it did become challenging, it was that natural passion and that enthusiasm for the subject or the field that I was studying that sometimes got me across the line. If you're in a position where you know, yes, this is the career that I want to go into, like Ben was saying, happy days, great. But I'd also be very mindful and very cautious of the fact that, are you actually going to enjoy it? University is not designed to be a boring, horrible time for you for 3 years because it's education. Sometimes there might be a connotation that it's got to be, it can't be fun, it can't be enjoyable. And that's further from the truth. Like for me, I'm a massive football fan, and I got to do my master's thesis around the Premier League. If somebody would have told me that back when I was doing my A levels, I probably would have been like, you can't do that. And this is the possibility of going to university. You can really shape and take your studies wherever your interests lie. So that's why I really say it's very important for you guys to follow what you enjoy.
Thanks for that, guys. That's really helpful. So it sounds like I've got to keep an eye on the future and be aware of the career destination and try and build up that portfolio of skills, but perhaps not get completely hung up on X degree taking me into Y job, because that's what I was stressing about a bit. I was kind of worrying, thinking, oh, well, if I pick this degree, what am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with English or history? But it sounds like you've got destinations, both in terms of additional study options and also career options that spin off the skills you get from every type of degree. So as long as I'm doing something I enjoy and something I'm good at, that's going to give me the skills I need to progress positively in the future. Thank you. That's really good. So what about additional opportunities? So I've got the course and I'm kind of comfortable that I'm getting value for money. What other opportunities does university give me kind of additionally on top of the academic side of university life?
So I touched upon it earlier in regards to employability. So I said sometimes often students are faced with this choice, right? Do I go into work or do I go into university? And you're sort of neglecting your employability. For me, it was an absolute godsend that I got the opportunity to do a placement, because it saved me from potentially making a career-long mistake. So these guys know this story. For those of you that have never watched me or heard me speak on a live stream before, I'm just going to quickly relay it. When I left college, I wanted to become a PE teacher at high school, and it was the only thing that I was fixated on. And I made sure my university degree gave me the opportunity to do that whilst I was studying. And I remember turning up on the Monday morning. I remember the school. I'm not going to mention the school. And I remember walking into that environment. It was a year 7 PE class, and I couldn't get out there quick enough. I absolutely hated it. I thought, you know what, I cannot do this for the rest of my life. And I remember going home, speaking to my parents and thinking, you know what, this is my first midlife crisis, or I'm going to dub it an early life crisis, because I'd made all these decisions based on this one career path. And students often do. When we're speaking to students, we ask them, yeah, we want to do this. But when you actually go out and experience it, it can be quite different. And obviously the panic struck in, and I was just like, oh my God, I've chose this degree. I don't want to do this job anymore. But in hindsight now, looking back at it, I'm glad that there was an employability edge in there, that I got the opportunity to try before you buy, essentially. And then I used the remainder of my time to understand, right, what else can my degree give me? And I worked with some fantastic team in the university that's all around employability. And they sort of helped me and shaped me, and right, these are the skills that you're developing. These are the potential job roles that you could go into. But yeah, it was quite a traumatic experience for me in my first/second year.
It's true, isn't it? Because a lot of people do have a very blinkered, definitive view. This is where I'm going to go. And
Yeah.
you might need to prepare to be a bit adaptable to that view, because you don't quite know what life's going to bring. And you also don't quite know what the reality of certain jobs or skills are like. So we do a couple of quick shout outs in here. So what we got there? We've got Maria Yusuf from Pakistan. So hello, how are you? And a couple of quick informations here. One question we had earlier on from Simrandeep regarding undergraduate courses in January. And we don't actually do undergraduate starts that are outside of a September intake. So postgraduate courses for quite a lot of our course areas have got January starts. Undergraduates are almost exclusively September starts and have a rolling academic year that finishes in May or June. So if you're looking at a postgraduate, you can jump onto our website and there should be a list of January starts available there. If you're looking at undergraduate courses, and they apply during the autumn, but they're applied during the autumn for an autumn start the following year. And that was actually Maria's question as well. So we've done 2 for the price of 1 there, which is all good. And then Cyril was talking about work. So this is about the cost. So if you're a home student, you get a loan, don't you, to cover your living costs. What are your thoughts on part-time work during the current time? Because it's going to be a lot harder than normal to get a hold of part-time jobs, isn't it? Any tips or thoughts you can give to folk to help them with this? We've got uni temps on campus, haven't we?
I think it's always a tricky one, part-time work, because I know that I worked for quite a lot of my time at university to sort of help to pay towards, you know, bills and rent and food, and it meant that I had enough left over so that I could go and, you know, have a bit of a social life. So obviously we talked about the maintenance loan, and obviously that will cover a lot of that anyway, but it's always nice to have a little bit extra so that you're not having to sort of stress about money. So a part-time job is brilliant for that perspective, but you've always got to remember that the degree is still the thing that you're going to university for, and you don't want to sort of burn yourself out with you know, spending all your time in lectures and then in the evenings spending all your time doing a part-time job and leaving kind of no time for you to spend time with friends and stuff. So whilst I agree it is a worthwhile part of being a student, you have got to remember that you've still got to make sure that you're striking that social sort of academic balance and still being able to take advantage of other opportunities like joining a sports team or a society or anything like that. So I think you've got to make sure you strike that balance. And if you can get a job through something like, so an example that Jamie gave there was something like Unitemps. Unitemps is a student-based sort of part-time work agency, and they offer a lot of jobs to students throughout the campus. And one of the roles that they do offer is something called student ambassadors. So they are essentially representatives of the university. They work sort of in and around their studies. It might be an hour shift, it might be sort of a 5-hour shift. They're really, really flexible depending on what we sort of need ambassadors to do. And it's great because the ambassadors are able to just kind of pick up as many hours as they need, or as many hours as they've got during the week. And then if they've got a particularly busy week the following week, they don't need to take as many hours. So things like that are really good opportunities just to look out for when you are maybe doing a bit of that research around universities.
And you can be brand ambassadors as well. So you can potentially work for your course, being a course rep. So if you are a current student, then you can talk to your tutors and say, how do I go about being a brand ambassador? They'll find out for you. Again, it might be working on digital open days, working on parent facing event, promoting your course, all sorts of opportunities. It's about just asking the question and being proactive, but talking to your faculty, talking to uni temps based in the campus centre. They're all productive ways of getting work experience. And that experience is good for your skills, but also good just to balance the books a little bit as well. But obviously work, just like everything else, is a bit different to what it normally is. Normally these ambassador roles are quite physical. These days you've got a lot more digital interactive work, streaming and supporting streams rather than necessarily being face-to-face working events. Can you tell me a bit about sports and societies at university? Because I've heard that these are a big way of meeting new people outside of your course and adding value to what you do. Did you guys join sports and societies? I know you were a big society man, weren't you, Ben? And Dell's a sporting man. So
Yeah.
can you give a bit of info about how these work, how they fit with the course, and what value they add?
Yeah. So the Students' Union, again, great a bunch of people to sort of get involved in, is they look after a lot of the sort of, I guess, the fun stuff of the university. And one of the things they look after is the sort of sports teams and societies. Not a big sports person myself, but as Jamie said, I was part of quite a few societies. And the big one that I was a part of, because I was able to get onto the sort of committee side of things, was something called Dmu Media. And they were the sort of media group on campus. So we had our own magazine that I was the lead editor for. There was a radio station, so I had my own radio show every week, and then they also had a TV station. And they just produced lots of fun stuff. We could kind of do what we liked with it. You know, when it came to the magazine, we could sort of design it how we liked, publish what articles we liked, and it was really good fun. And because I was able to become part of the committee side of things, there was loads of skills that I was able to develop from that. So, you know, it was essentially running the whole society. It was looking after budgets. It was looking after people. It was training people. So it was actually teaching them how to, you know, write and edit an article, for instance. So there was lots of things that you can sort of get involved in from a society's front and a sports team front, absolutely, where you're able to learn additional skills. And the nice thing about societies is because they can be sort of quite wacky, and you can go into a society that is really quite unique. You're actually able to learn the skills of that society. You know, there are things like, for instance, the media society, but then there is also a more specific fire dancing society, which sounds really dangerous. There's a DJing society. So if you want to learn to DJ, and they actually do, when obviously there isn't a pandemic, they perform in clubs as part of their DJ sets. And these are skills that people have learned in their spare time whilst they're at university. And you sort of think, well, when else am I ever going to get to try and do all of these amazing things? So societies are one thing. Again, not much experience with sports teams, so I will let talk a bit more about those.
Sports teams were pretty cool. So, like, for me, one of the first things that I did when I went to university my first year was find out when the tryouts were for the football team. So it depended on the university. So our team had an A team and a B team. And obviously the competitiveness in you, everyone wants to get into the A team. Everyone's suddenly Cristiano Ronaldo's nephew, and everyone's sort of the best footballer on the world. But for me, the best thing about it was that you got to meet a lot of people. As Jamie mentioned earlier, for me, it was a great way to break the ice. So I had the people that would be on my course, but then I also, through the football team, I got to meet a lot of other people as well. And surprisingly, even though I was only with the football team for a couple of times per week, obviously when there was matches and training, those were the people that I was usually spending my time with at university, and not the people on my course. So we really built this great team chemistry. Was pretty okay on the football field as well. So that's probably why we had such a great team chemistry. But it was so fun. So the opportunities to go out to the different matches. So for us, we used to play on a Wednesday. I believe that's still the same. So every Tuesday night, everyone used to get excited. We had a strict no drinking / socializing ban on a Tuesday, so no one was hungover for the matches. We'd get on a coach together. We'd go traveling. We'd go and compete against other universities. So I had friends at the time who played for different university teams, and getting the opportunity to play them and most of the time beat them, which was pretty fun. You got the chance as well. If you do join a sports team, I do have to pre-warn you, there are initiation ceremonies. So whatever you hear of those, I will not speak in any detail, but I'm just going to say they are there in place, but it's all about bonding. So the point is not to be horrible or be nasty or anything like that. It's all around team bonding and making everyone feel part of the team and everyone feeling a bit more welcome. So for me, it was an absolute fantastic time, and looking back on it, it's probably one of the highlights of my my university time.
I did 10-pin bowling, and our initiation ceremony was I had to go to the Hollywood Bowl in the university town I was in on a Saturday afternoon with our whole society in a fancy dress of their choice. And they got this particular bowling ball that was like a 30-pound bowling ball, and I could hardly lift it. So I had to go with this ball, but I had to dressed in comedy outfits, but everyone else was just in their jeans and t-shirts. So again, it wasn't an awful thing. It's just designed to have a bit of a laugh and make you feel part of a team. You know, it was good. On to serious notes, we've got some questions here from Maria talking about January starts. With the January starts, I'll tell you what, I'll pop our inquiry details on there in just a second, and I'll give you some platforms to reach out to. They're able to give you a lot more comprehensive information than ourselves. So ignore the UCAS Extra messaging. If you either give this number a call between 9 to 5 UK time, or drop us a message on WhatsApp, we can talk through the postgraduate courses available. We can talk through the timelines for needing to apply and get your CAS and getting a visa in terms of starting. But because of COVID, there's a lot more flexibility regarding start dates. So you can join the course up to a couple of weeks after the course has started. So there's still plenty of time, but you would need to commence an application pretty quickly. So give us a call or message us on WhatsApp, and we will pick it up from there and help you through the process. The courses are we don't do a full distance learning scheme. They're all physically taught on campus, but because of the COVID situation, it's kind of blended learning. So you'll have a relatively small amount of time on campus, and the rest of the time you'll spend in a home location, so from the university halls or from a shared house, accessing and working with your tutor remotely. So it's a blend of digital learning supported by elements of face-to-face teaching. And then if you're doing a science or an art related course, there's still lab work and studio work linked in there as well. So there's plenty of opportunities still, and there's still time to apply for this January start, as well as an intake next September as well. And Ben's kindly put the information there in the chat, so feel free to reach out to us from there. And we're open, like I said, from 9 o'clock in the morning UK time. So drop us a line on there. Right, what else did I want to talk about? So let's just assume we've convinced people that university is at least something they want to consider doing. From your point of view, if someone wants to start university this September coming, or maybe even this January, where is the best place to start in terms of just working out how it all works and working out what's out there, particularly in these COVID times? What's the best way to commence your research, in your guys' opinions?
I would say start like a lot of universities now doing the open days, albeit the digital open days. One of the negatives is that obviously you can't actually come and walk on the campus and see the campus in person, but you still get the opportunity to do virtual campus tours. So although it's not the same, you can still sort of get the opportunity to have a glance of the university, have a glance at the facilities. But the open day for me is fundamentally where you would start. So have a look at what the university has to offer, have a look at what makes that university unique. You get the opportunity then to attend different taster sessions for the different subjects that are on offer at the university. And then if you have any questions, you get the opportunity then to pose those questions on a stream like this. So if you are interested in a specific course and you want to find out more information about the modules or the contact time or how it's taught, is it examinations or is it assignments, you get the opportunity to reach out even though it's done in a digital environment. So for me, fundamentally, I would start on the open day. And here at De Montfort University, our next open day is on Saturday, the 14th of November. We will paste a link in the chat for you guys to book your place and have a look at the courses that we have on offer for you guys.
And these open days, they're for home students and international students. They're genuinely a valuable way of getting interactive experience with both students and with your academics. And we find actually there's loads of conversations go on in the chat. If you jump into the welcome talk on the open day, you're going to have 300 or 400 people in that talk all at once. And the conversation in the comments bar is really extensive. So it's actually a really good way to meet people as well. Open days, when you're interacting virtually, just like lots of you guys are doing tonight, what I'd stress is do actively interact within the sessions you go to, whether it's our university or elsewhere. Don't assume because it's virtual, you need to just be a passive listener who stares at the screen. If you've got particular questions, particular things you want to know, throw them into the conversation and we will go there from me. I've got a question from Alan. Speaking of throw the questions in there. Looking for tuition fees. I think, Alan, your best bet with that particular question for a January start, because it's not the specific nature of our conversation here, is to use the phone number, the email, or the WhatsApp and drop us a line directly, because our team will jump on it first thing in the morning, but they're going to be more equipped to deal with it than we are live in the stream. So there's the phone number and the email for you to reach to. It's there in the chat messaging. And you've also got WhatsApp if that's your preferred option. From 9 to 5, they'll be jumping back on those responses to you. They'll be able to check in the system what your offer currently is, check out the criteria. We don't necessarily have reductions in tuition fees per se, but there are a small amount of scholarships, and they'll tell you what you need to do in terms of conditions to move your offer from conditional through to being unconditional. And they can also talk about CAS and visas and those types of things as well. So do feel free to drop them a line in the morning tomorrow. Right, okay. So we've got open days and stuff lined up. We've talked about the main reasons to go. A couple of quick points before we depart. What do you think the most important aspects of university life to be researched are? So if I'm sitting there thinking, oh, what should I be looking at? What should I consider when I'm doing my research?
So we've kind of touched on the academic side, I guess. So the biggest thing that you're going to want to research is going to be the course. So obviously, I won't go too much into this because we've sort of covered it a little bit already. But do look at the course for first and foremost. I think look at it from the perspective that I talked about in terms of is this going to get you into? Is it going to provide you with the skills that you need to get you into the career if you've got that in mind? But equally, look at it from Dow's perspective and make sure it's something that you are going to enjoy. So look at it from both sides and make sure that it's the right fit for you in all of those different categories. And if you're really not sure what you want to do, then I think the conversation that Dal had is going to be weighted more highly, because obviously it's going to be, well, I'm not 100% sure, but I am going to do something that I'm really good at and I'm really going to enjoy. So look at the course in more detail, and that's when you can start to look at, again, those sort of opportunities for placements, or sometimes called sandwich courses. You can look at things like the modules. So there's your teaching sort of objectives, and they'll be what's covered over the 3 years. You can also look at, again, teaching methods, assessments, contact time. All of those kind of things will become really important. So the course is the big one. The other thing that you can look at is things like accommodation, which we can always touch on a little bit in a couple of minutes. You can look at some of those opportunities that we talked about. So is there a society for you to join? Is there lots of opportunities for you to get involved with the sports team? Those types of things are quite important. But also, as Dow said, you can't necessarily get onto the campus at the minute. But what I would do is, even in this situation where you are looking at a lot of things digitally, just look at what the campus looks like, get a bit of a feel for it, because things like how far away is the accommodation, or how far away is, the city centre, the sort of lifeblood of the city, how far away is those sorts of things, so that you're actually able to enjoy your time at the university. Because again, that's really important. It isn't just about enjoying the course, but it is also enjoying your time moving out, if that's what you're going to do. So I think there's a couple of different things to pull from that. It's looking at the insular stuff within the course, but also looking at some of those wider things that we've sort of briefly touched on throughout this talk anyway.
Thanks, man. So you mentioned accommodation in there. Let's discuss that briefly. So for some people, there's a big decision: move away or live at home. If you're an international student, obviously you've got to think about the relocation factors, but also again, living in student halls. What do people have to think about when they're considering their accommodation? What do you think the big decisions are? Any advice, Dal, on halls and accommodation and the decision to move out or not move out?
For me personally, I would have a look at your own personal circumstances and see who you are as a person, whether you want to move out. Now, one thing that we really want to stress, there is no lesser option here. So if you choose to stay at home, that is perfectly fine. If you choose to move away, that is perfectly fine. Obviously, there will be a difference in experience. Obviously, if you do move away, you will be more independent in terms of you'll be cooking, cleaning, if you don't already do that for yourself already. If you do decide to stay at home, you might be away from some of the social aspects of university life. And I'm thinking back in my own predicament, was that one thing that I always had in my mind was, do I really want to spend that extra cost? So it was going back to this thing that you were talking about at the start, Jamie, in terms of cost. Accommodation is another cost that was really had a question mark. My university wasn't far, but it wasn't close. So it was in from where I live, I could drive there and back if I wanted to, without it becoming a real pain in the bum. So for me, I was just like, do I move out or do I stay at home? Initially, I decided to move out because I wanted that experience. So what I did was moved out for the first year. Second and third year, I started sofa surfing, and then I just crashed at places with my friends once I'd made the friends on my course. But one thing that I really want to stress is understand what your own personal requirements. So for me, I'm a bit of a clean freak. So for me, sharing kitchen spaces, sharing bathroom spaces was a bit of an issue for me personally, because everyone's level of hygiene differs. So really do have a look at that, and also have a look at what your accommodation comes with. So what are the basic necessities that are going to be included in there to save you from spending money on stuff that might already be there? All of the universities do applying to university groups, so please watch out for their social media pages. If they invite you to a Facebook group, if they invite you to something on Twitter or whatever it may be, we strongly advise you to join it, because you get the opportunity to break the ice with potentially some of the students that you could be living with. But then you can also start up those conversations and find out what's on my accommodation. The way I always view accommodation is like booking Trivago or booking something off booking.com or Expedia or one of those. You get the options just like you would with a hotel, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. And obviously they all come with different prices. So for me, work out what your budget is, work out how your finances are set, and then pick one according. But please do remember some of those home comforts. What do you need in your accommodation? What is a must to you in terms of your personal space, in terms of kitchen, bathroom? And one thing just slightly tangent to that is, please do not take anything valuable. So don't take anything that's valuable. Don't take anything that has sentimental value, just in case it does get a bit damaged or something does happen to it. And now remember back to some of my accommodation hall parties. It was as calm as what you would expect. So I'm very glad that I didn't take anything of value with me in my own personal
No,
experience
there
anyway.
are. They're amazing melting pots of people, these university halls, and socially, you're meeting people from places you've never even heard of. I was literally having to look up the country one of the lads I lived with had come from. I'd never heard of it. He was from Brunei, and prior to starting university, I'd literally never heard of Brunei. So I was like, "Where's that?" I was like, "Where's that in the UK?" Was my thinking, but clearly it was about 8,000 miles away. So you learn a lot because you've got these people from all these different cultures and all these different backgrounds, all living together, studying together, socializing together, and you develop a lot of skills and a lot of open-mindedness and tolerance and adaptability from those experiences. So genuinely, university halls are more than just a place to lay your head. They're a real place to have, and it's almost a home of that university experience. I mean, yeah, like you say, some of the halls parties were legendary. There's one of our parties. One of the lads managed to. He got challenged to ride his mountain bike from the top floor down, and he went straight through the small prefabricated wall into the downstairs bathroom because he couldn't slow down. We had a man on a bike-shaped hole in the wall for a month till someone came to fix it. So it was. You did a bit of both, didn't you, Ben? You're from quite local, but you chose to move away and live in halls as well.
I did, yeah, and it was good because one of the reasons I stayed was because I had a part-time job and I wasn't fully sold on the idea of university at the time. Strangely enough, I sort of thought, well, this is what everybody's doing, so yeah, why not? So I kind of didn't look very far afield. I just kind of went, well, I'll go to DMU. Oh, they're offering me accommodation. Brilliant. I may as well, I'll take the lot, as it were, and just kind of take the full advantage of the opportunities they're providing at the time. And yeah, it was one of the best things I've ever done, and I kind of haven't really gone home since. Really, I moved into accommodation, and then I sort of stayed with my parents over a summer. I got a student house the second and third year, and I sort of stayed living out for the rest of my time at university and beyond. So really, yeah, you do kind of grasp the idea of being independent, being mature, and sort of living on your own quite quickly. It's not as daunting as I think people make it. And you do, like you say, you get to meet lots of people. And weirdly enough, one of the people that was put into my accommodation, which again is kind of done at random, was somebody that was on my course. So he was able to get me up in the morning. And the nice thing as well was that my accommodation was only 2 minutes walk from my lecture spaces. So it only took me a couple of minutes in the morning to get to lectures anyway. So accommodation for me was brilliant. And again, it gave me the opportunity later in the second and third year to actually move in with people, not that I was living with in halls, but actually people that I met from my society that I talked about earlier. So that was really good as well, because I got to meet and live with people, lots of different people throughout my time at university as well, which is brilliant.
Tell you, I wouldn't have wanted to live in halls year 2 and year 3. By May of year 1, I was ready to find my own space because they are a massive melting pot. But that first year, it was just absolutely perfect. And coming back to your football theme there, Dal, one of my favourite bits of my halls was I was in the glamorous town of Middlesbrough up in the northeast, and once a fortnight, the Middlesbrough football team at the time would do a public training session in the local park, and they'd train literally where I could watch them from my window. So I could see the players at the time. This is back in the day. Janina and Fabrizio Ravanelli, these international players. I was lying in my bed, sort of like having a cup of coffee, and I could see them training out the window. It was great. Absolutely legendary. Yeah.
Cool.
I was in the same 10-pin bowling lane next door to the team as well on one occasion, but they were better at football than 10-pin bowling, I can tell you that much. Right. To close off, let's do a couple of minutes of some selfish DMU related conversation here. So we've talked a lot generally about why go to uni, how to start your research, given some top tips. Del showed us some fireworks. It's been fantastic. But from the point of view of DMU, can we just talk a bit about what the selling points of DMU are? Because I know, Ben, you're a DMU graduate yourself, and I'm a Leicester boy through and through. What do you think the selling points of DMU are? Why should someone watching this stream, be they a home or international student, consider their university experience at DMU?
So I was on campus today, so I've got quite an easy answer to this. First of all, I've got others, but one easy answer I can give is that I was on campus filming some stuff around campus today, and it's a really good campus. So when you're in the center, it feels very modern, it feels very spacious, there's lots of green spaces, and there's a lot of sort of renovation and redevelopment of a lot of the facilities that we've got on campus that you'll see when you arrive on the campus, from our sort of relatively new now art and design building that's got loads of workshops, to sort of other spaces around campus where they've renovated a lot of the spaces and they've provided industry standard facilities for students to learn those practical skills for the courses and the careers that they want to go into. So from that kind of side of things, the facilities are brilliant because, again, you're able to actually learn those skills. You're not just sitting in a lecture space 9 to 5. You're actually being able to sit in those labs and actually develop those skills hands-on in those sort of workspaces with technicians, with people that, again, have worked in the industry, and you're able to kind of learn from them. So that's, I guess, quite a broad answer, but at least that covers quite a few different things there. Is that really good facilities, really great campus. People always rave about our campus when they see it, either digitally on a live stream or even when they come onto it physically. They always say how, amazing it looks. So if you're looking for somewhere that's got quite a nice sort of vibe to it, really modern facilities, but also, again, accommodation's all really close, DMU is pretty darn good for that.
And we've got TEF Gold teaching. So you can look at all these different rankings of league tables that compare universities versus universities. But the TEF is the only independent assessment of the actual quality of teaching across the UK. And you can get a gold, silver, or bronze standard. And we got the gold standard there. And that's a real, because the teaching is important. Having a university that's very academic is fantastic. And obviously, it's a critical underpinning skill of a university. But if you've got a lecturer who fundamentally wants to be a researcher or writing his textbooks or be behind the scenes, and teaching isn't necessarily his profession per se, but it's something he has to do as part of a job, that means you've not necessarily got somebody who's there for the passion of teaching you guys in the class. Whereas all of our academics, first and foremost, above everything else, they are there to engage and to teach and support you guys as potential undergraduate and postgraduate students. So the quality of teaching and the passion for teaching of the academic community is another really strong point of the university. Anything to add in there, Dal, as a non-Leicester person? What's your view of DMU as a selling point?
See, for me, as I said at the start, one of the highlights of my university career, looking back on it, was my ability to travel. So when I look back at university, one thing that sticks out is the fact that I travelled so much. But the only downside to that was the cost. So being a student as well and trying to manage everything on top, the cost to travel sometimes a bit of a hindrance. When I started working for DMU and when I learned around the DMU Global Scheme, I was absolutely gobsmacked in terms of the fact that this initiative is designed for students. Now, we'll post a link in the comments for you guys to have a look at in a bit more detail, but we've sent tens of thousands of students on these international trips, trying to broaden the horizons of our students, but also giving them international work experience. So when you guys come to graduate, it's going to be a highly competitive environment. A lot of the students will be graduating with the same sort of degree. They'll all have the same sort of experience in terms of they've probably done some type of work experience in the UK, but there won't be many students that have had the opportunity to do something on the international stage. And DMU are really focused on the fact that they want to make sure that you guys stand out when it comes to employability. So speaking to students who have gone to DMU, I've been very jealous of, very envious of, in terms of they've been to places like Russia, they've been to places like Brazil, New York, Tokyo, like places that I really want to go to, but they got to do that as part of their course. They got to go on with their fellow classmates, learn around their course, in some cases get some opportunities to do some work, and it was heavily subsidized. So it wasn't breaking the bank for the students. So it meant it was all inclusive. So students that possibly think, oh my God, travel equals expense. For DMU Global, it's really worked the other way around. And we really want to try and create this inclusive environment where all of our students who come to De Montfort University have this opportunity to really develop their opportunities outside of the United Kingdom. With everything that's going on in terms of COVID, of course, that's put a bit of a let's put a pin in it for the moment, but we're hoping that this initiative is something that we can get up and running soon once the world returns to an essence of normality. So for me, DMU Global is a fantastic initiative, and it's something that I would strongly advise all students who are looking at universities to have a look at.
And Cyril, check out the global website, because whilst we're not necessarily able to put students on flights and zoom around the globe right now, we've still got global partnerships and global experiences you can have, albeit they might be digital in the short term. There's still things you can do to get involved and be involved in. And we're hoping as you move through, as soon as the COVID situation shows signs of positivity, we'll start to bring that scheme back step by step by step. But obviously, like everything else in life, it's quite hard to plan for at the current time. But none of us yet. We've not managed to get a global trip yet. The three of us, have we? Something's gone wrong there.
Not in a
Yeah.
work capacity, Jamie. I'm still
No.
waiting, but I did go as a student to New York for a week, which was cool.
Oh. Hey, did you know one of your predecessors of all? Actually, I've never told you this. You know, a colleague of ours called Danny, who now works at a university that shall not be named. He got as a staff member, he supervised the DMU football team's trip to San Diego for 10 days. So yeah, yeah, as staff members, we also need to be jumping on the global website and looking for opportunities. Another big selling point, maybe you can skip the football bit, Ben, but the trip to San Diego will be okay. The city itself. So Ben's talked about the campus and how fantastic the atmosphere and the facilities are on campus. The other real good selling point is the facilities of the campus and the city and the affinity between the two. So we're a campus-based university. So all the facilities that Ben talked about, the halls, the library, the student union, all of the teaching and learning facilities are all on one site. Leicester City Centre, Leicester's got 300,000+ people. It's got everything you need in terms of city facilities. That's walking distance away. The campus is all on one site. You cross the ring road and you're right in the middle of a city centre for shops, for jobs, for nightlife, for clubs, for restaurants, for festivals and culture as well. So the relationship between the city and the campus, and the fact that you're all safe and composed and compact on one site but so close to the urban environment, is a combination that not that many universities have. You're usually either urban or campus based, and we're quite lucky to have the real mixture of the two together. Right, any final closing words before we let these people escape and go and have their dinners or put their feet up or watch Man United versus the unpronounceable Turkish side, whatever they're doing?
You don't want to watch that.
What's the score? Give us an update.
It's 2-1
to United, or the other way? Moving on. Right,
No,
top
I think
tip before we wave good night.
We've covered quite a lot here in terms of generally YHE, and we've obviously touched a little bit on sort of research and stuff, which I'm sure we'll cover again in the very, very near future. But I guess if you are considering university at this stage, definitely just open your eyes to what opportunities there are. Don't, again, just assume that university, the only thing you need to look at is the courses, because I think, as we've highlighted here, there's quite a lot of things you need to consider, whether it be, extra opportunities and placements, whether it be societies and sports teams or accommodation. Just make sure you're researching. And again, we'll cover that in a future live stream, I'm sure.
For me, my biggest top tip would be make sure you do something that you enjoy. And I feel like it's something that I've said throughout this whole live stream, because it's, for me personally, it was fundamentally important. The last thing that you want to do is enroll yourself onto a course for 3 years, spend all the money that we spoke about and not get the maximum out of it. So make sure it's aligned with your priorities, make sure it's aligned with your interests, and hopefully you'll have an enjoyable time learning about that field or that industry in a lot more detail.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers, Del. Cheers, Ben. Appreciate it. We popped the link up there on the front of the screen with all our previous DMU talks and future episodes. One real high profile one we might want to check out. Obviously, big news at the minute is the American election that's going to be ongoing for about 6 months while Donald Trump gets his lawyers out. But we've got a stream next week that's focused on the Congress situation and the American election, with a couple of former congressmen from the states themselves directly involved in the stream. So definitely one to check out. That link there is going to have constantly updated streams through the autumn and winter. Some are going to be talking about the university process in detail, like this one we've just done. Some are going to talk about more distinct and unique academic experiences, like the Congress to Campus one I've talked about just now. So do keep your eyes and ears out. And all the previous episodes for your viewing and listening pleasure are available. So you can drift off to sleep, listen to the dulcet tones of me, Dal, and Ben. That's a good night's sleep guaranteed, I would say. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all your questions, and have a very, very good evening. And Adele, thanks for the fireworks, mate. Really appreciate it. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.